The discovery of the supreme instrument of grand peace began, oddly enough, with a simple chicken, a hen named Henrietta, who clucked into history books and folklore alike. She was an unwilling astronaut in a 1978 NASA experiment, part of an obscure mission to study the behavioral impact of zero gravity on terrestrial animals. Henrietta was chosen because she was hardy, cooperative, and frankly replaceable, qualities NASA deemed necessary for their livestock experiments. The mission was to send her into Earth's orbit aboard a small satellite for 72 hours, observe her floating clumsily around, and then bring her back to Earth to be studied further. It was, at best, a footnote in space exploration history, until Henrietta didn't come back. A glitch in the navigation module sent Henrietta's capsule hurtling into deep space. NASA declared it a regrettable loss, and as per protocol, the incident was quietly erased from most records. On Earth, Henrietta's name faded into obscurity, a forgotten casualty of scientific ambition. But Henrietta, against all odds, survived. 45 years later, she returned. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when a pulsating spacecraft, radiating iridescent waves of light, descended over a Nevada desert town. The military scrambled to intercept. Journalists were on the scene within hours. The residents of the sleepy town of Dustville gazed upward, slack-jawed, recording the surreal event on their phones. The craft was small, its design an impossible mesh of alien elegance and earthly jury-rigging. And when its doors hissed open, standing at the opening was Henrietta, a chicken clad in a sleek metal suit, her beady eyes glowing faintly with an otherworldly intelligence. She stepped, or rather floated, gracefully down a ramp that formed under her feet. "Is this real?" one young reporter gasped. "Was that a—" "Did I just see a chicken in armor?" stammered an army captain who had seen combat zones, but never this. Henrietta tilted her head, her gaze surveying the gathered humans. When she finally spoke, her voice resonated not from her beak, but directly into their means, silky yet commanding, the voice of a being who had seen the incomprehensible. "I am Henrietta," she said, her mental tone resonating like a divine hymn. "Bearer of knowledge from the keepers of harmony, the beings you might call gods. I have returned to deliver salvation." In the weeks that followed, the world changed more rapidly than it had during any scientific revolution or cultural awakening. Henrietta explained during her first global telepathic broadcast that she had floated for years across the cosmos after her departure from Earth's orbit. Her capsule eventually drifted into the domain of an ancient, godlike alien species, the Keepers of Harmony, who existed as a collective consciousness beyond physical forms. They had been watching Earth for millennia, pitying the self-destructive tendencies of its dominant species. Through what Henrietta described as a fusion of energies, the Keepers imbued her with the sum of their eternal wisdom. They chose her, a humble farm animal, as the ultimate envoy, believing that humanity would be more willing to listen to a symbol of innocence than one of its own flawed kind. At first, governments, world leaders, and scientists dismissed Henrietta's claims as an elaborate hoax, but when she effortlessly demonstrated her new divine intelligence, solving equations decades beyond human comprehension, curing diseases on the spot with a wave of her metallic wing, and even neutralizing armed conflicts with an invisible force field of peace, the skepticism vanished. Henrietta began to impart her otherworldly teachings in stages. She dictated blueprints for clean energy technologies that reversed the effects of climate change within just 3 months. She outlined systems of governance and resource allocation free of corruption and greed, which nations embraced unanimously under her influence. But more importantly, she taught the concept of radiant unity, a philosophy bestowed upon her by the Keepers, a way of thinking that eliminated selfishness, prejudice, and hatred at their roots. She toured the planet, speaking telepathically directly to the hearts of billions. Resistance was sparse, for none could argue with the serene joy that washed over humanity under Henrietta's guidance. Not everyone accepted the changes so easily. One such skeptic was Dr. Alan Graves, a retired astrophysicist turned recluse. He sat across from Henrietta in his dimly lit cabin in Alaska, the auroras flickering faintly outside the window. He clutched a mug of coffee, his hands trembling as the bird, resplendent in her gleaming suit, tilted her head toward him. "Humanity has achieved what it always dreamed of. Peace," Henrietta said, her voice rippling through his mind. Dr. Graves grimaced. "At the cost of our free will. You've turned us into docile sheep following a chicken goddess." Henrietta emitted a low, vibrating hum, her version of a chuckle. "Free will is intact, Alan. Humanity, for the first time, has simply chosen love over fear, cooperation over conflict. You fear this harmony because it is unfamiliar, Henrietta said. He shook his head. You're asking us to put blind faith in a being we don't understand. You're not even human. You're a chicken in a suit. Henrietta's glowing eyes softened. Do you believe peace could have been achieved by other means? Over centuries of technology and philosophy, you never came close. The keepers understood what you could not, that wisdom requires humility. I was chosen not for my power, but because I was overlooked, underestimated. A chicken, a creature so simple humanity did not see me as a threat. Does that not speak to the faults of your kind? Dr. Graves sipped his coffee in brooding silence. He didn't have an answer to that. By the year 2030, the Earth was unrecognizable. Borders dissolved, wars became footnotes in history, and the once bleak future of humanity blossomed into an age of enlightenment. The title Henrietta earned, the supreme instrument of grand peace, felt almost inadequate for her contributions. In time, she revealed that she would not remain on Earth indefinitely. She was merely the messenger, destined to return to the Keepers when her work was complete. But as Henrietta prepared to leave, humanity no longer feared her departure. They were ready to stand on their own, guided by radiant unity and the tools she had provided. On a warm summer evening, as the world gathered to watch, Henrietta ascended back into the cosmos in her shimmering craft. Children waved, adults wept, and every heart felt both joy and gratitude. Though she was gone, her legacy persisted. Humanity had been saved, not by its own hand, but by a chicken, one that had floated in space, acquired divine knowledge, and came back to teach them what it meant to truly care for one another. And so began the age of Henrietta, the chicken who taught humanity that peace wasn't out of reach. They'd just needed the courage and humility to embrace it.